Today I'm talking with Dan Jaspers, who is responsible for international sales and business development at RS Marine Group. And one of the areas that he's been working on is with the RS Venture Connect, which is turning into a hugely interesting project. So Dan, firstly, many thanks indeed for making the time to speak to me today.
No worries, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Can you tell me a bit about the history of the RS Venture Connect class and how it came about?
Yeah, it's a relatively uninteresting story, but it's interesting in how it's evolved. The RS Venture itself, the platform, was designed many years before the class activity came about, and because of its stability, its design, a typical Phil Morrison design boat, it does well in all sorts of waters. We got quite a few interested queries from people within the UK, from sailability groups and from the RWA Sailability, wanting to know if they could adapt the boat to suit people with disabilities, so disabled sailors. And the design team at RS set about creating a few modifications, and the feedback was amazing. And then that feedback turned into more ideas about more modifications. As a sailor, where do you stop fiddling with a boat? It's everyone knows that kind of feeling. So RS did more and more and more to adapt and to put adaptations into the boat to suit a variety of different requirements from different types of disabilities. And that ended up with the boat that we see today, with the seats side by side, with a control tower with all the lines led back. We even have a sip and puff and/or joystick system with a servo-controlled unit that can steer the boat and control the main sheet. So it has a motor on the boom. So it's really grown from a 16-foot dinghy that was there for school use, for family use as a recreational boat. And then because of the adaptations, we've ended up having the boat now as a class internationally for inclusive para sailing.
And para-inclusive sailing, we're accommodating a wide range of needs. So is every single boat adapted to a certain sailor's requirements?
Yeah, there's such a wide spectrum of requirements. I mean, I've been working with disabled sailors since I was 16, 17 as a junior instructor in the UK with an organization called Opportunity Knox on the South Coast, mainly with intellectual disabilities, Down syndrome, learning difficulties, and now working with paraplegics, quadriplegics, sailors of really high levels of disability that affect their mobility, not just the sort of cognitive skills. And the boats, really, any boat can be adapted with a simple piece of rope across it to pull yourself across. If you can pull a sliding chair, as we've seen with sonars and other boats in the past. The Venture Connect tries to do the best that it can to include as many people with disabilities of different types as it physically can. Sitting down and forcing the sailors, not forcing them, but having the sailors seated and using a joystick, the boat becomes the leveler and not the disability is how I look at it. So having two people side by side and relying on the tactics and the sailing ability and them not being able to get up, even if they could get up, means that they compete on an even playing field. So yes, theoretically, with the sip and puff, the joystick, which you can control with your chin or just sucking through the straw, you're able to take charge of the boat. So that is a high level of disability. At the very bottom end, someone who's blind or two blind sailors could sail the boat side by side with some auditory support in terms of the marks where they are on the field of play. So a wide range, a wide spectrum of disabilities are catered for. I wouldn't say all of them because there are lots of different types of disability that we've not come across, but hopefully we will one day.
I just love hearing that you're just coming up with different ways of making as many people as possible enjoy their time on the water. But when it comes to international growth, it's hard to grow any class. What challenges have you found with the RS Venture Connect?
Um, we could talk about this particular topic for hours and hours, and in fact, there are many online forums where people do, and I try and jump in and have my say so as I can. The challenges are very multifaceted. So financial challenges are always the one that comes up regularly. The ability to purchase equipment. So we as a manufacturer, RS, try and provide access to ex-charter boats, to used boats. We try and broker boats that have been in the network for a long time with customers and try and help new customers find those at a cheaper price than maybe what a new boat is. Helping organizations raise funding by providing all of our marketing and communications resources to promote them so that potential sponsors and partners will invest and engage. There are lots of different ways to help raise money, crowdfunding, online. I know the US team were doing that before going to the Para Worlds in the Netherlands last year, set up a GoFundMe campaign to try and encourage people. So there's lots of different ways of solving that challenge. The challenge of finding the people, the disabled sailors, that's another challenge that a lot of programs face. Where do you go? You can't just walk down the high street and go, you're disabled, come with me and go sailing. Although there is a UK GBR coach that I know that did that when he was in charge of the disabled para inclusive program, because he was so keen to get them, and it was kind of, come with me, you're going sailing. So where do you find sailors with disabilities? Who do you approach? So we give advice about the types of schools with special need, they cater for special needs students. So going in and presenting to the teachers and mainly the parents, because there's a lot of worry about sailing being a dangerous sport. So you bring the parents on board, talk about safety, the way that the sailors are supported, the methodology in teaching them on the boats, the systems in place. That's a barrier that's relatively easy to overcome with education. And World Sailing does a great job with their inclusive development program that they run to educate federations in how to go out and canvass and get disabled sailors. So that's a challenge that's there, but is easy to overcome.
It sounds like with this area, you've got your hands full, huge amounts of liaison, and definitely not a one-size-fits-all around the world. But you're the person in that role who certainly is the one who will drive this forward. I recently saw, and we had reported on it on Sail World, as a Swiss event where it looked highly successful. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, this was actually an event that wasn't run by the class or by RS, although we supported it with some of our media and communications work, which our team did a great job of. But the Swiss Disabled Sailing Federation, run by Michel Dabré and his team in Progine on the banks of Lake Geneva, they've been long-term supporters of the RS Venture class. They have a number of the boats there at their program, as well as some other classes of boats, including the Hansa 303s and 2.4s, so a widespread. But they've really focused on the Venture Connect because of its ability to appeal to a wider demographic of user. And this was an invitational cup, as it was called, so the Swiss Invitational. And the invitations were sent out by the organizers mainly to the teams that had attended the Para Sailing World Championships in the Netherlands last year in Brassemermeer. And so it was kind of like a pro-am kind of event where these sailors were sort of sent this little invite and a golden ticket to come to the event. And it was designed as a high-level event to test the format, which isn't new, but this round robin using multiple boats to have more teams going through has been something we've tried to grow as a class. And the feedback from the sailors who I spoke to over the last few days was really, really good, really high level of engagement. And they're looking at opening it up more next year. So this year it was very much para, but in line with the World Sailing Strategy for para inclusive, to have the two words on that strategy rather than just para. This event in Switzerland will run again and will open up to more teams with an inclusive nature, as opposed to just having two para classified sailors sailing side by side. They'll have teams which will be a combination of potentially one para, one non-para classified, or even two non-para classified. So it's really opening up to more sailors, to more teams, and being more inclusive, as the name within this new worldwide strategy suggests.
Just having a disability doesn't in any way mean that you're going to be a worse sailor. And I know this firsthand out on the racecourse. And one of the features of the upcoming RS Connect World Championships is having an open category as well as the inclusive category. And this, I think, is hugely important, just so that you can have para-inclusive sailing being complete. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, so with the Venture Connect Class World Championships being hosted by Rutland Sailing Club in on the last day of September, they start and they go through to the 3rd of October. We had the para category for that event already, and we had the inclusive category, which consisted of a minimum of both people on board had to have a disability, or one person had to have a classifiable para disability. So it's kind of a broader group, and we thought that was good enough. And then we kind of came to the realization internally that by saying we're inclusive, we were actually by default being exclusive, because we had completely alienated those sailors that were not disabled. And if we're going to have a sport where disabled and abled sail together, and we're not using the term disabled or abled, but we're just using the term sailor, which is what we all are, and disabled sailors just want to go sailing like you and I do, and just want to go and have the biggest, the highest level competition, then we need to include that. And some people doubted that decision and said, well, hold on, we're going to get Olympic sailors jumping in the boat and going head to head, and they'll win the event. And I said, and what's the problem with that? You know, if you're sailing on the start line next to an Olympic sailor, how cool is that for anybody? You know, for me, for you, for anyone. And why should it be any different from these disabled sailors who are going to look at them, the tactics that they're putting forward? Not that this is happening, but it might do. And I encourage, you know, any world champions in other classes that are not disabled to jump in and register, because that would be awesome to see you at the event. And the good news is, with this open category, as we've called it, which is open to anybody, so the name is kind of not an open class in terms of design, but open to anybody who wants to come sailing. I know that other classes like the 2.4 meter class have done para and able, so not this inclusive category. So they've done that for a number of years. So we're not claiming to be revolutionary, but what we are claiming to be is truly inclusive across the broader spectrum. So Down syndrome, Asperger's, diabetes, arthritis, learning difficulties, so educational side of disability, as well as physical disability, people who are lacking in mobility. So what about a more mature, a senior sailor who is lacking in mobility? Are they disabled? No, but do they get a chance to race against other people in normal types of racing courses? No, not often. So why not give them the opportunity to be as part of this event in a world championship? So we really wanted to embrace everybody, and inclusivity truly means anybody and everybody, regardless of who and what. And we really just want to try and expel those virtues if we can. And we think we're getting there, and we're really excited by this unique event.
I've always thought that sailing really is a sport for all. And it seems like with this upcoming World Championship, as you say, we're getting there. It's something that we're trying constantly to build, but the RS Venture Connect and the World Championships at Rutland sound like an event which is a really, really good step on that path. So Dan, many thanks for your time, and many thanks indeed for all the work that you're putting in trying to make this all happen.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I just encourage everyone to get out there and share the love of sailing with everybody, regardless of how able or not they are. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Absolute pleasure.